Welcome once again to the vlog. I'm your host. Today, I'll be taking a look at the Intellivision Amico. If you're excited about the project, that's great, but it's just not for me. So I intended to release this video on the first anniversary of when the Amico was originally supposed to be released. But I just didn't care enough to finish it. The console has been delayed 3 times since its original October 2020 release date so far, and they still intend to release it before the end of 2021, and we'll see if that actually happens. I have been collecting games for over 30 years, and I really like classic games, but I just don't see the point of the Amico. The Intellivision was a product from Mattel that was released back in the late 1970s, and it was a pretty interesting console for its time. It was the first console to have voice, but to me, the most interesting thing about it was its ability to play Atari 2600 games with an official add-on from Mattel. Atari sued, but Mattel actually won, which is an entirely different story. The Intellivision sold somewhere around 3 million units, which may not be entirely accurate. However, it was still far less than the Atari 2600 30 million, but it was successful enough to stick around for quite a while. Mattel sold the rights to some former Mattel execs who formed the company INTV Corp., who kept making it until the product was finally discontinued in 1990. By that time, they were making games for Sega and Nintendo systems, and licensing agreements didn't allow them to make a competing console. The rights have changed hands a few times since then, and now there's a new group of investors who bought the rights, and they're trying to make a new console. To me, I think the biggest hurdle that they have is the $250 to $300 price tag. That makes it more expensive than the Switch Lite and on par with the standard Switch and the Xbox Series X, depending on which Amico you buy. There is a $250 model that comes in either black or white, a $279 model that comes in wood grain, and a $299 model that's purple. The hardware is very underpowered for the price, but I think that may have something to do with the controllers and a very, very high markup. In my opinion, they really needed to keep to their original target $150 price point. At $250 to $300, the build quality and the graphical capabilities just isn't there. In my opinion, it all just looks cheap. This isn't some boutique product that can demand a high price. It is a mass-marketed product. A system like the Analog Mini NT Noir can command a $500 price point because it's a product that serves a very specific need. It also had a very limited run, and it uses a higher grade of materials. It serves the need for me to play my classic NES games on an HDMI TV with minimal effort. They didn't make very many of them, and the aluminum shell is all really nice. It wasn't really designed to be mass-produced, and I can certainly appreciate why most people would think it's a crazy price to pay. However, the problem with the Amico is that they are marketing it as a product for families and non-gamers who are much more sensitive to price point. Most people don't know what an Intellivision is, but they've certainly heard of Nintendo. If a parent or a grandparent is looking for a system to buy for their kid, are they going to buy a Nintendo Switch or an Intellivision Amico? If I'd hazard a guess, I think they'll be picking up the Nintendo. I know there are few people who are nostalgic for the Intellivision, but I just don't think it's enough. Which comes to their next major problem. their lack of retailer support. As it stands now, the only way you can pre-order an Amico is either directly through the manufacturer or through GameStop's website. If you look it up, Amico on Amazon, it just comes up with a bunch of LED lighting. The Amico is currently not sold by Best Buy, Walmart, or Target either, or really any other retailer that I'm aware of. Even the Ouya was sold at Target, but then again, the Ouya was only $100. Hopefully that changes, but without retailer support, I just don't see how this console can possibly be successful. And even though the Ouya was sold at Target, it didn't have long-term success. Another major factor for a console's success or failure is the games. And right now, I'm not confident at all in what's being shown. Finnegan Fox is just a reskin of Fox and Forests, which is available on all platforms today. Maybe it'll be good, but it's just not a system seller for me, or really I think anyone else. Earthworm Jim is something that I would be interested in, but so far they haven't shown any actual gameplay footage. Tempest is a game that they've announced, and I'd probably be really interested in it given the controller, but I haven't seen any footage of it, and it's unclear on who is actually making the game. At this point, it seems like it would be just wrong to have a new Tempest game without Jeff Minter. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what they actually do with it. The $3 to $10 price point for all games sounds good, but what's the incentive to actually make games on the console? The result is that they currently have no major third-party support. It all comes off to me as a Leapfrog-like console without the educational component. Now, Leapfrog gets licenses just like the Amico, and they both make their own cheap games, which is, again, a big problem for me. Everything on the Amico, from the shell to the controller to the games, look very cheap and unimpressive. I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to have a console with a focus on indie or more simple games, but didn't someone already try that with the Ouya? Making a new console is very difficult, and the Ouya did have a lot of backing. More so than the Amico from what I can tell. They had people who were involved in making software, producing and releasing hardware that actually had experience in releasing a product. I mean, remember the one laptop per child project? The guy that made this thing and shipped millions of those to kids all over the world helped design the Ouya. Now, the controller sucked, but I actually liked the design of the console itself, and I really appreciated the aluminum enclosure. The console is only $99. As I previously mentioned, you could also get it at Target. They ended up with over 1,000 games on the console, but the best-selling game was Towerfall, which was originally an Ouya exclusive, which sold 7,000 units. Once the exclusivity of the agreement expired, they were to make it for everything else. Which, yeah, exclusivity sounds nice, but no one is going to make games for it if it's not worth their time. The Ouya had a few Sega and Square Enix titles, but no one is going to make games for this thing if they think history is just going to repeat itself. So the games that I've been seeing mainly look like cheap cell phone games. In many cases, worse than what you can get on your phone. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think the Amico can actually run a game like Genshin Impact or Call of Duty Mobile, and I don't think anyone is going to make anything that advanced on this console. The online requirement is also particularly concerning about the Amico, like when the online store for the Ouya finally shut down, it was basically a useless brick. With no track record of success, that seems like the most likely fate for the Amico, in my opinion. Even with all of these issues, I see an even bigger one in that I have no idea if the console is actually going to be released. It probably will, but they're in their third delay, and some pretty major components of the system have not been finalized yet. And it seems to me like they may be running out of money. They're doing another investor thing, trying to get more venture capital, and they're the only console maker that I'm aware of that has ever had an investor section on their product page. Like, yeah, if you go to the corporate websites of Microsoft, Nintendo, or Sony, they will have investor information and their FCC filings, but they're not trying to get people to invest on the same page as they're promoting their new consoles. It all just seems very odd to me. They're also selling their so-called physical products without a console, which is also really odd. It's not unheard of for games to be available before the system is released, but usually it's only a couple of days, and we know that the games and the console is finalized. It's just a matter of conflicting street dates. So what this Amico company is selling is a box, a gift card, a baseball card, and a token. They're being sold as 4 packs for $80 or 8 packs for $150, and that's not including shipping. Considering that each game is supposed to cost between $3 to $10, that is a huge markup. What's on the card is just a link to a website along with the card's serial number. It should be noted that you're not buying the license. You're just buying the box and the contents inside the box. They made it very clear on the link that they had that you actually had to click to actually see the terms. So if some or none of the games actually come out, you got your box and that's what you bought. When it's operable, assuming it becomes operable, the gift card should link the game to your console so you can download the title. There's no data on the card, but what is somewhat interesting is that the licenses are transferable. However, you have to pay a lot more for the privilege to do that. Now, transferable licenses are a really good thing, and it's something I'd like to see other platforms do. Currently, games sold on online stores from Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo are all limited, non-transferable, revocable licenses. These Amico card games, if they actually come out, could end up being limited, transferable, revocable licenses. That's once again assuming they actually see the light of day. The Intellivision people are also marketing the boxes as limited collector's editions, which is to say that they're not very collectible at all. The 50,000 units could raise up to $1 million in revenue, so to me it seems like they're just selling them now without a console to raise much needed capital to actually complete the project. To me, the company doesn't exactly give off the impression of a professional operation, and personally, I would not pre-order anything from them. I think it would be much smarter to wait to buy them whenever they actually hit retailers. Even then, I'd still wait for reviews and wait to see if this model is sustainable. With the Intellivision Amico, I've always tried to have a wait and see kind of approach. We'll see if it comes out, and we'll see if the product is any good. As of right now, and after 3 delays, I'm not completely convinced that it will come out, and the product as they've shown it doesn't look any good to me. I really do hope that it comes out for the people who have actually paid for it, and that they end up enjoying it for many years to come. If they prove me wrong, I'd have no problem buying it after a price drop or two, assuming that it actually has games that I think that I would enjoy. However, as it stands right now, I just don't see that happening. Now, I don't want to be completely negative, so I will say that although overpriced, I do like some of the merchandise that they're selling on their online store. The Running Man shirt looks cool, and if some of the Intellivision game shirts, and if I saw some of these Intellivision game shirts at Target alongside other game shirts for the same price, I'd probably pick one up. So those are just my thoughts on the Intellivision Amico. Do you think I'm being overly harsh on the console? If you're planning on picking one up, What games are you most excited for? If you're from the future, was I totally wrong? And is the Amico the best-selling console of all time? Just let me know. I want to thank you for watching my video. I'm just a guy learning how to make videos on his Apple Macintosh, so there's no reason to take anything I said seriously, and this should not be considered an endorsement of any of the aforementioned products. Thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful day.